Hey there, it's Chris. Welcome back to the Kai Shulin project, where last time, if I turned you the correct way around, we finally went and kind of more or less finished off the left arm over here. We got the arm guard on, we kind of resized it so I still think it's a little bigger than the inspiration image I'm going off of, but proportions seem to work on it right now, so I'm just going to go with it. And if we come in just a little bit closer, as you can see, I was going to say off camera, I was going to kind of touch up the hand and get it kind of finished. As you can see from here, I never actually did that. So I've been doing a lot of modeling this week to kind of catch up on things, even though I'm still behind, because this video I'm doing right now will be uploaded pretty much immediately after I finish recording this. So it's kind of a race to get to this weekend, and then I finally have time to actually catch up to where I am. So I haven't actually finished off this hand, and I'm not going to work on that hand. We're going to be doing the right side today. And I'll do that part later, because we get to see ourselves do even more of a hand, because I just realized I only got up to the 4 fingers and didn't even cut out the palm on this one. So let's go ahead and turn this around and get ourselves into, put everything kind of as we need it to be. Get ourselves set up into our usual kind of setup. And we will begin. So, like I said, I got to where I was up here. I'm liking this whole part. I think I probably could have twisted the armband just around a little bit and kind of said the wrist was twisted so that the elbow guard here would be a little more on the elbow. It's kind of twisted a little far forward. But overall, I'm not going to change it at this point. It's fine. But, yeah, like I said, I'm going to do the hand off camera, and we're going to do the right hand this time. We're going to attach it to here and to start kind of blocking out the arm, getting up into it. The arm is probably going to look like a really skinny Final Fantasy VII kind of arm going on here as it goes on. But that's going to be fine at this point, because then hopefully the next time we will speed things up a little bit and go through as we need to go through. So let me get my setup going here. And the first thing we want to do, as we did on the other one, is we need to actually make the fingers again, because we don't have that set up this time right now. And now the nice thing with this hand, this is where I was a little waffling a little bit before on whether to do the rifle first or the hand, so I can have the hand kind of grasping onto what it needs to. But if you look at the image on the side, her fingers are more just kind of a generic curled up, and then the rifle just kind of sits, just kind of rests in there. It's not like it's grasping on to the rifle itself. It's more of just they're kind of open, and the rifle just kind of falls in. So I can do this before the rifle part is made, which is actually kind of nice. So if I have that ability, I'm going to use it. So we're going to get these arms done so then we can move on to the next stage, because the next stage is going to be the camo. Because we need that before we can do the hair stuff. Like I said, I can do the head next. I can do the face, I can do the head. It's just, I felt like Bang, I can get away with having a bald version of Bang for a while. That was kind of fine. But here, the hair has a decent chance of coming and resting on top of the camo itself. And I feel like bald Kai is going to look slightly worse as a result of that. No, we're kind of really busy with you right there. So let's go and... So just so we don't have a bald Kai for a while, I'm going to do kind of the face, then the head, and the hair kind of all in one deal rather than spacing them out super far. And I think I just want to go in that direction. But in case you missed the hand part, all we're doing is we're taking the palm and we're slowly just merging the pieces together to make one form. Now, I wouldn't mind if this hand is slightly smaller than the one on the other side. I think I went a little big. Like I said, I've had to move the thumb down a little bit. I still have to kind of move the thumb just a little bit to get proportions and whatnot right. And I also need to re-smooth everything at this point because it's all a mess. It's just what it is. But this at least gives us my... Okay, all of a sudden I realize I have no idea what direction the camera is facing. Like, all right, look at my preview. Where is the camera? I'm lost. Yeah, again, we've already seen this part, so it would be nice to kind of go through this relatively quickly. But at the same time, I do need it right, but also this does go kind of quick, so I'm not too concerned about redoing this part again. And then we're going to really quickly get into where we the session that you haven't seen. But again, that's the other reason I wasn't too hung up on not showing the other one. Yes, the dialogue was wrong, but also there are two arms. So if I can show one of the two arms, hey, we're good. We ought to be okay. So let's see, let's put the thumb on the correct side. Thumb goes on this side. We can see we have index finger, middle, ring finger, and we can see the little one is down there, so the thumb goes on the opposite side. And I guess this one doesn't really matter on the underside so much as well either, because again, most of this underside is going to be covered by the rifle in the end. And when this is on display, it's pretty much always going to have the rifle in there. So I don't need, once again, I don't need to worry too much about this side of things, but I will still do what I can to make things kind of look nice and good. Oh, let's get a little bit blended in here, so it looks like the thumb actually attaches somewhat correctly. Might be helpful. And all of a sudden we have ourselves a little hand going. Fingers are coming down a little far on that side, but that's more just blending stuff. We'll a little bit of blending will help work that out. That's probably too much. That said, kind of the padding where the fingers come up here, I kind of try to elevate this area, try to elevate here, and then this comes in while this whole center becomes a little more submerged. So I have the one under the thumb, comes down in here, but I would like to have one at the kind of base of the fingers. So let's add a little bit down there. Now this is going to change as I keep moving things around. My fingers get on here. So all of this tends to, or a lot of it does tend to kind of work its way out, it feels like, the more I work these types of things. But at least if I can start in a good place, maybe some of it remains as this goes on, and that kind of helps. But sometimes it doesn't always work out how I want. Alright, so we have that. Let's get a little bit on the outside edge, then we will add the gloves. I'm only going to do the glove portion of it, the fingerless glove part on this. I'm not going to do this armor part this time. I'm going to do that after the fact. If only because I found it was very difficult to spring the wrist kind of off of the hand when I had that in place. It just kind of messed up proportions. So to make life easier on the next, I was going to say the next step, but I'm going to be taking that step this session as long as all things go well. But yeah, for that portion of it, I would like to have that work. Okay, now we have our thumb comes out a little too far, so we need to add kind of the webbing part we see in here to it. Otherwise, this does not look, that does not look correct. So we need to add just a little bit in here. Because thumbs have this. They do. Let's go and get in that little groove area. Okay, that kind of gives us the basic form on that. Let's make sure our fingers can still separate. Not that that's super important on this one. Again, the fingers generally look, no, the index finger is kind of separate on this, it looks like. But anyway, it is time to make some fingerless gloves. Now, I do have that doohickey right there I can use, but it's so small, I can just do it with this. We can just do the old-fashioned way. This is how I used to do things before I got the pasta roller. Which I really do like that pasta roller. That thing is great. It will never be used for pasta, but it is great for this. And we can kind of use this. That kind of goes up and around. As long as we kind of wrap it around. And actually, this one I should have underneath because we will see a little bit of underneath going on. So I will need to actually come all the way around with this. Oh, I could have made this a little bit wider. That's gonna be too wide. Alright, let's get this right. Okay, we really don't need to go too far on the underside because I've already added stuff to the underside. Alright, the underside is a mess. Let's deal with this part first and then we'll get to the other part. One thing at a time. Alright, I know I'm not saying much right now, but I am pretending to concentrate. Because these are very kind of tiny parts to work with. So I kind of want to make sure we get this in here. Okay, and just like that, it kind of looks like we're getting some gloves going. It's not the prettiest thing. Again, elements like hands, these small kind of things, I really do feel like I work better than if I don't have the camera on, and it's like I can work a little closer to my face. I am nearsighted, so I'm getting the basic parts of this done, but I will be doing some touch-ups off camera afterwards. That said, I am just kind of looking at a lot of this model is looking a little rougher, I think, even post-hardening than some of the other ones. It will look better once it gets painted, but I think some of that is I am just trying to keep things going. I don't want to keep stopping in the middle and spending too much time just kind of redoing certain areas. So again, if you're doing your own models, you can make things smoother or whatnot depending how much time and effort you want to put into what you're doing. But I do realize there is a roughness to a lot of the stuff kind of going on this when I kind of bring her closer to the camera, and that is a function. I think a decent chunk of that is a function of me doing this on camera as opposed to off, just so I can keep things progressing. If I were to do like more of a time-lapse kind of way of doing this, like say I'm going to do one video a week just kind of showing what I've done during the week, it might be a little smoother, a little more refined. But just because I am doing this more live, it's just a function of that. The desire to kind of keep moving forward as we go. Okay, let's put a little bit on the thumb, and then we can move on. Move on to bigger and better things. which is a lie. We're just going to move on to other things. It's not necessarily bigger or better. I'm also not on camera because I moved the camera up. You should warn me about these things. Yell at the screen whenever I do that. Feel free. I won't hear you, but if it gets your own frustration out, more power to you. Okay, let's get all these little pieces kind of together so it's not just sitting in my way waiting to get caught on something I don't want it to get caught on. Because better believe it will. Alright, smooth that out a little bit. Okay, that's generally our hand. Again, fingers might need to be a little longer, a little shorter, might need to actually do some more stuff on there, but by and large, that's our hand. You can see our pinky line comes straight down that, which is what we want. Index finger comes out just a little bit past where the wrist is, although the wrist doesn't matter at all at this point because we're about to blow that part wide open right here, as we're going to come right back on this side. And here's pretty much the session that we missed before. Alright, so what do we want? This image will not help for that. So what we're looking at down here is, I believe I did this at the last, that's right, I did do this at the end of the last session. We were kind of troubleshooting this, but wrist of the hand, as you can see on the side, generally comes just kind of right about to just kind of below where the two legs come together down here. And this arm becomes much easier to figure that out on because it's generally a straight arm. So I can just say, bam, it's going to be right there. And it's just that easy to do. Because we can see our wrists, if I can get my head out from around where the camera is, wrist is figure right around in here. It's kind of right at the base of the thumb. Track across, bam, there we go. We had the other arm was about 3 3/8 from the shoulder down to the wrist area. So let me go set this guy up to that length. And if we have shoulder height down to there, it's saying it's way bigger. We're not going to go that big. We're going to, both arms maybe just a little different. Let's see with 3 and, I do realize the arm is bent a little bit, but that feels a little better. So we're going to be just a hair shorter on this arm than that one, but no one's going to know. As long as you don't say, I'm not going to say, and that's all I'm going to say. Okay, so for that, if we're going to be attaching down here, I want to cut my metal right about there. Would be a good place to cut, right where my fingernail is. So I can take that, snip away. All right, that piece is gone. That's where our hand is going to be. So we're going to come down right about there. Bam. Okay, so what I do with that is I kind of push in just a little bit, just enough to give myself that little bit of an indent, just so I kind of know where this is. And now, if you've seen the bang video before it was either on the hands or the wrists, I forget. It probably was on the wrist one. I kind of do the same thing on that, where all I'd like to do is I then carve out just a little trench for the wire to go in. I go a little deeper. And then I then just go and glue this thing in here and then just recover up. And that's kind of my modus operandi. A lot of other ones you're going to see online, what they'll do is they'll kind of do the entire arm, have this little stub sticking out. They'll go take the hand and just kind of run it up into the stub. What I've run into on that is, in order to do that, I tend to have to hold the hand something like this. When I push up, it kind of squishes kind of a finished hand quite a bit. Then I have to redo the entire thing. So I like doing this way. This way I don't need to put pressure on it. And it's just worked for me. Again, there are always going to be multiple ways to do basically anything you want to do with the modeling stuff. again, the way I'm doing things are just, sometimes it's just the way that I do things. It may be right, it may not be right, but it has worked for me, and oh, you get to experience this again. You missed this last time, where my super glue decides to harden in the top of the tube. And last time what this led to was when I got this out, all of a sudden it just poof out. And I wound up with glue all over the side of my hand, which was fantastic. I couldn't feel like my last two fingers throughout the entire session that you didn't see. And we're heading in that direction again. What I should do is I have a second tube. I should just get another tube of this. We can just maybe write this tube off as just being a bad tube. For some reason, it just got glue stuck in the top, and it just doesn't want to do the thing. So, good thing is these come in packs of 2, or at least when I get them, I get the pack of 2. So I do have another. And when I head out to the grocery store next time, because I get these at the grocery store brand super glue, I can just pick up some more. This type is pretty much dirt cheap, so I'm okay with that. That, and I think this is like the 4th or 5th tube of this I've gone through, and that was the first time I've ever had issues with it. So if that's the only time I have issues with it, that's fine. Okay, so I'm just gonna instantly put this thing back on here. We're not going to take any chances on that, and I'm not going to go too far with it actually, because I'm going to need to glue some clay onto here. I'm going to need to have this arm be able to come out. Alright, good. Arm can come out. And arm can go back in? Question mark? Arm can go back in. Okay. Let's just real quick pop you back on. You're coming out. That looks like it's kind of correct. So, yeah. Okay. What do I want? I want some more clay. Other way. While the glue is out, let's go and apply a little thin layer to all of that. Okay, just making sure we kind of have enough to do this with. Let's go and bring you down. Alright, now you be good to me, glue, because if this tube doesn't want to be good to me, then I'm in problems. Because I need you to last for whatever I'm doing over the weekend, because I'm not going shopping again until Monday. Monday is my typical shopping day. So and I do have plans to get more of these sessions done over the weekend, so I don't have to rely on getting things done the day it's being uploaded next week. That would be fantastic. I also have other plans kind of for next week in terms of content stuff I want to put out. I believe this weekend I really do want to get the game done. I really thought it was going to be done last weekend, except end game scenarios just kind of keep going. And that said, I haven't played it at all now in a week. I think last I did was like on Sunday. We're Friday now, so I've been doing a lot more time on these kind of models during the week, where usually I used to use kind of just on, if you watch the Bang one, usually I do like 1 modeling session during the week, and the other 4 modeling sessions for the week were done on the weekend. And that was kind of how things went. This one, I've done all 3 sessions here that you've seen put out this week. I've done during the week, which is a little more hectic than I wanted, because I try to do that big push just to get the game done, get it over with, and it didn't get over with. The game is just too much game. But that is just how I feel like strategy games are. They just last too long. It's not that they're bad, it's just too much game. But I'm also thinking of moving on to a different segment for this channel. Whereas I said before, if I continue doing this, I want to do, like, say, another model for like any other game that I want to do. And if I want to play the game, I might just make a new channel for it. I wouldn't put it necessarily on this channel. I would try to keep this one primarily a building kind of channel, whether it's through clay or whether through its other stuff. Although I still think it's probably primarily going to be these clay projects. But I'm thinking of adding maybe a once a week kind of like fitness thing, maybe like a Fitness Friday kind of thing, or a segment like that. Which, if you're watching this and you do want to see something like that, where once I start actually training for the next Spartan race, I'm going to do is like get into my spring training. It's really going to be like winter/spring training. Usually I kind of start up again around Thanksgiving. I can kind of go week by week. I can turn it into like a blog type thing where I kind of go week by week what I plan on doing, why I'm doing the training stuff that I am, this, that, and the other. I can go over tips and all that type of thing, at least on things that I have learned. Again, a lot of what I'm doing now is largely kind of self-taught. I've been doing both duathlons and these Spartan obstacle course races really for, I think it's been about 14 years. I want to say it was 2011 when I first kind of started doing things. It was duathlons. I never had a swimming background, so never really got into the swimming part, so I would just do the run, bike, run. And then by 2017 was my kind of, not my last time doing that, but that's kind of where I was like, okay, I'm getting tired of doing the same thing over and over. Let's go and switch it up. So 2018 I went and I started doing the obstacle course racing. And kind of since then, I do a little mix of both. Any given year, I might do a couple of races of each kind of endeavor. But long story short, I have like 14 years worth of that experience back in high school. Did the track and cross country for all 12 seasons, 4 seasons of the cross country, 8 seasons of track with winter and spring. So I do have a running background, and I can use things I've learned from that and just experiences from training for these other things, and I can explain why I'm doing the stuff that I'm doing. I can go over things I'm learning. I am still testing new things as time goes on. Last year I tried out the zone 2 type running, trying to the usual kind of run slow to go fast kind of deal, and I've learned things that work and don't work with that and how to change it. So I am constantly learning on my own how to do these things, and I can just, like I said, maybe it's a weekly thing, explain how I'm doing, or explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why I'm doing things at certain times, like before a race, why I'm doing things, say 4 months before a race, 3 months to a race, 2 months before the race, how it changes over that kind of span. Although that starts up mostly kind of towards Thanksgiving-ish time is usually when I start, kind of in that holiday season. It tends to be when I get kind of tired of not working out for a while, because what usually happens is I've already gone through this first phase of, hey, I just finished, I get my first week off is like cheat week. I can eat whatever I want, like not work out, sleep late, kind of do all the, well, I can't really sleep late because of work, but it's mostly the eating whatever I want type deal. It's like, I can do this, that's great. And usually by the end of the first week, the stomach's like, yeah, no, that was dumb. That was a bad idea. Get back to normal diet again. So I'm kind of at that phase now. I'm like, okay, let's get back to a normal diet. But usually after like a month or so, it starts actually affecting the not doing any kind of big kind of workouts starts kind of affecting my sleep schedule. And that's usually where I start kind of going, it's time to get in. And the biggest reason I can figure for that is if I'm not doing like a run or something or a bike or whatever it is, whatever physical activity outside of work that I'm doing, my body just doesn't, I try to go to sleep, but the body's not exhausted or tired because it hasn't had to exert itself like at a certain rate. And when I try to go to sleep then, when it's not, all of a sudden you can't fall asleep as soon as you want because the body just kind of lay there and it's like, body's like, no, I'm not ready yet. You haven't done anything to be worthwhile sleeping over. And it really affects, more than anything else, it affects my sleep schedule a lot. And once I get into that phase, it becomes pretty definitely like, yeah, I really need to start working out again. So we're not there yet. Right now, we've hit the point where the body's like, yeah, let's get back to a normal diet. But I haven't gotten the rest of the way. So until that kind of figure end of October, November-ish, somewhere in there, maybe kind of through this October time, I could also just do like general hikes or like kind of easy bike rides in the woods and whatnot. I was just driving around today after work. I think the sun has finally been out for the first time in a couple days. It's been kind of overcast and kind of gloomy. And all of a sudden, it's starting to get kind of gorgeous looking outside. It's definitely not summer stuff or summer kind of view anymore. We're moving on. We're not high fall. We're definitely not high fall yet, but we are working towards that direction for sure. And there are a number of like just nice kind of rides and runs that I do kind of this time of year that really are just it can get very picturesque if you hit the right weekend at the right place. So I may go and just maybe slap a GoPro on and just do some of those and broadcast those. But yeah, if you're interested in seeing something like that, hey, you can throw it out in the comments section. Hey, you should do it. If you think that's a really dumb idea, like I don't want to see any of that stuff, you can throw that out there too. And we can kind of take it from there. But that's what I'm kind of thinking is maybe it would just be like a once a week thing. Again, the primary is going to be doing these kind of like just have something to kind of keep going. Just have a building project on hand that we can just kind of slowly make progress through. It's nice just kind of seeing something develop over time. So having this type of project for me is fun. But at the same time, I always have a number of different interests. Like I said, I enjoy doing the building stuff, whether it's this or wood. It's usually either going to be this or kind of wood projects. At home, it's this because I live in an apartment and wood stuff just makes too much noise and would probably really upset the neighbors. But I have those. I have the fitness side I enjoy doing. I also have, as you've seen, I enjoy the gaming side. All my models are basically from games and whatnot. And I do enjoy, usually kind of before going to bed or something, I may like watch like an episode of anime or something like that. I don't consider myself an artist, but I enjoy watching and seeing the medium of people who are really good at like artwork and whatnot. So for me, I enjoy, when I watch like TV stuff, either kind of have like the history shows or things like, or like science shows or whatnot, things like that. Or I enjoy just watching more, rather than go to like sitcoms or whatnot, I enjoy the animated ones. So anime is interesting to me, although you never know what you get when you pop those on. They can run the gamut. I've already gone through a lot of like the most well-known ones and whatever at this point. So now it's, to an extent, there's scraping the bottom of the barrel and just kind of picking things that you've never heard of before and finding the diamonds in the rough. And part of that is fun too, just trying to find the diamonds in the rough. Because it's like a little game. A lot of them are very rough. A lot of them are bad. But you do get the ones that are like, wow, that's amazing. No one has ever heard of this thing before. I've never heard of this thing. I've never heard anybody talk about it, but this thing is amazing. And those are the fun ones to find. But I'm usually kind of between those four interests. So for me to just have a channel with just one thing going on, I know, yes, YouTube's algorithm likes seeing that more, so you can find people who are interested in the one element you're kind of doing. But I think I'm always going to have multiple things in the back of my head. So on this one, I think it's going to be primarily building, but once a week I may just I've been putting the Spartan one, the races on here, and I may just put some more of the fitness things kind of on here as an auxiliary to what we have. Okay, we're getting somewhere now. And now our goal is to get this arm to look like that arm. And maybe make that look good along the way. Where are we time-wise? Okay, we're 35 minutes. Not doing too bad. So the rest of this is basically just going to be bulking out the arm. This is still, I don't think this is going to look particularly right in the end, but I think it's going to be I think it's going to wind up at the point where it would be nice to step back and kind of sit on it for a little bit, sleep on it a bit, so I can kind of then get an idea of what needs to happen to make the proportions right. Because again, I mentioned before, I am historically not particularly great at getting the proportions on the hands correctly. Or hands and arms. I should say arms, not hands. They're generally the long, lanky things that if you're off just a little bit on proportions somewhere, it just kills the entire effect. And I'm not particularly great at getting it right, at least on the first go. It usually takes a couple tries to kind of get things to look and or feel correct. So it would be nice to get this to a point where I can then sleep on it and just go, okay, let's reevaluate. And really, if I get to that point, then I shouldn't have an issue doing this part again next session, at which point then I can harden it, and then we can move on to either I can do one of these ammo things, or really the poncho is the next big one. I still need to actually look at that and figure out how to do the camo. I haven't actually given the camo that much thought in terms of how to structure it, if it needs, or even if it even needs structure inside. Because it is a shape that it should be able to kind of hold itself up, and I shouldn't need to put an interior frame in there. But I want to give myself a little bit of time to kind of figure that out first. Okay, I'm looking. I think the arm wants to be bent just a little bit. Would be nicer to do that now, sooner rather than later. We just... find the hole. You're going to be probably back a little bit, so we're going to need to have... This part here is going to be kind of critical because this little indent is going to keep it from moving once we harden everything. So getting that kind of in there correctly is going to be a little on the critical side, and getting the arm the direction I need it to go. So I think I'm going to want something like that. It feels like she bends her arm actually quite a bit. Yeah, I think she actually bends the arm much more than I'm giving it credit for right now. And I hit the elbow guard. So this is the one downside using the steel frame that I'm doing right now. Whereas again, like I said, most armature wires, most people who do armature stuff, what they sell as armature wire is not a copper, I was about to say copper, is aluminum, because aluminum is much easier to bend than this is. And we just bent the arm in the middle in a bad place. Wow, we really messed this up. Okay, that looks, I was about to say, that looks better until I actually looked at it. Perfect. I'm harden it right here. It's done. I can see no flaws in it. It is just ready to go. All right, let's fix some things. Fixing some things is okay, as long as we are attached. As long as what we glued is still glued to the frame, we're good. Any of this weirdness can be worked out from there. It's just when I put pressure on the frame like I just did, what can happen is the glue can kind of come off and I'd have to just re-glue it again. But as long as that initial part is fine, all of this can be fixed. This is a non-issue. let's kind of smooth this out a little bit. Get ourselves back to a... Doesn't have to be a good point, just any point that I could probably use. I don't think any of this is good right now. We were going pretty good. Then I tried to bend the arm. And then everything just went out the window. But I was excited. I was excited driving around here, driving home today, and actually driving to the store to pick up. Had to pick up paint at work, as you can see. I have a couple little painty spots on the hand because some of it didn't want to come off. Most of it comes off. Some of it doesn't. Especially when you're kind of reaching into those kind of weird areas to kind of paint. Sometimes you can hit kind of random spots on the hand. But no, it just we are getting into that fall color time, and that makes me happy. I like autumn. Mostly because I generally take autumn off when it comes... Actually, I generally take summer off. I might do like an autumn race, but it's usually kind of early autumn. But I generally kind of take autumn off for a lot of training-wise. So I have like nothing to worry about on there. The temperature and stuff is perfect. You go outside, it tends to be drier than the spring. And it's just kind of a chill time for me. So... Plus, I'm a cold weather person. Anytime you start moving away from summer heat is super, super good. I'm a big fan. Big fan of moving away from that summer temperature stuff. Which I was thinking about earlier at this, kind of right before I started recording. I'd just gotten a comment on my Killington race, kind of advising on certain things I could do to help prevent the knee problem that I had before, whether it be through kind of yoga and training and whatnot. And I was thinking about that, and I was going back, and I know I'd said one of the issues I had was rather than going straight down that hill, I was kind of turning a little bit one way, kind of turning a little bit, anything I could do to kind of take pressure off the ankles and whatnot. And what that did at that point was to put lateral and kind of weird pressures on the knee that wasn't straight down. If you go on a little side, it puts pressure and on a joint that's not supposed to have pressure in that kind of direction. But I think zooming back, when it came to training wise, I made a couple fundamental changes when training for this one as opposed to before. Because usually I will train kind of in the winter and say early spring, because I enjoy doing cold weather stuff. Running around in winter is whatnot. I will much prefer going running when it's like 20 degrees out than when it's 80 degrees out. I will get so much more out of those types of workouts. So in order to prep for the summer training going to Killington, I kind of changed how I did stuff. A lot of my workouts were done like at 9 o'clock at night. I will not do morning works. I already said off the front, these are extracurricular. I call them extracurricular things. I'm not going to have my fitness stuff get in the way of work. And again, if I do construction type stuff, I'm not going to get myself tired before going to work by doing like waking up early and doing like a 5 a.m. workout in like a gym or something like that. So if ever I do workouts, they're going to be after work. And then I can sleep that off and I'll be fine the next day. So the problem I have with the summer stuff is I will dehydrate and just kind of burn out in the heat really, really easily. So instead of doing like the usual kind of trail runs and trail hills and stuff that I'd usually do on the weekend at kind of some of the local preserves that we have and local trails that we have around my area, instead of doing those to get kind of my quads and kind of calves and ankles and all that kind of fired up, I would do twice a week after a run that I'd done at like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. I'd go and do like up to a quarter mile of lunges afterwards. So it'd be like anywhere from like 10 to 15 minutes worth of lunges, just straight. It would be, I think I got up to about 425 or so in a row, give or take. I forgot the exact number. But I would do those twice a week and to kind of get prepped for the hill work. So that wound up being fantastic for the climbing aspect. My legs were actually ready for that. Like I said, I didn't think the hills were super, super bad until the second half, until we really got to that ultra loop. But unfortunately, because I didn't have the hill training and the trail running kind of background that I usually get, I didn't have practice running downhills. So on these slow climbs up, yes, it was really good, but I didn't train my legs to get prepared for the pressures they're going to face going down the hills. So I think I need to use that, and in going for, if I go for the next Vernon's spring race, which would probably be my next Spartan one I'd do, I would have to incorporate, I would like to incorporate more of the hill work into that, just to kind of get the legs then re-prepped for the downhills again. Because I think that I think was the big thing I was missing. I just didn't give my legs a chance to prepare for those downhills. What I did was great for the ups. So going in, I'm going to use what I used. I'm going to use what I learned to train for the uphills and keep doing that. But I will have to then incorporate the trail running again back into my repertoire to get the other end of things, because yeah, downhills are also a thing that exists. It's not everything is up, up, up. Contrary to popular belief, when you hear people talk about these races, not everything is up, up, up. Got to worry about the down part too. It is a real concern. Okay, we're getting somewhere. I think she still has noodly kind of biceps and triceps here, but we're getting the bottom part going. So let's see if we can work on this noodly part. Where are we time-wise? 47. Okay. So yeah, we're going to be kind of right where I want to be at the end of this. But again, those types of discussions would be the ones I'd have. I could do them the once a week. Just have like a dedicated... It could even be just like a 10-minute blog like once a week. Just to kind of say, here's where we're going, here's why I'm doing what I'm doing, fitness stuff. It may not get many views. Again, it's going to be tucked into a channel which is geared towards modeling stuff. But that's what I am. Like I said, this isn't looking like it's ever going to be a monetized type thing. So as long as I'm not aiming towards that, if that were my goal, I would probably 100% separate everything. But if that isn't the goal of this whole endeavor, then that really does kind of free up to do whatever I want. And yeah, I could try that. Let's take a little bit off of this. Okay, this is actually not looking terrible right now. I'm glad you missed doing this one. This one looked horrendous during the video I didn't put up there. This one at least feels like it's coming into where it needs to be a little quicker than the other one was. It could also be because this hand I think is slightly smaller than the other hand, which I think is now bringing it into proportion, a little bit quicker than the other one was, which is great. But I almost want to indent this just a little more. This doesn't feel like, although once it goes in and it would harden, I think we're going to be fine. I also don't want to keep adding stuff to this, because I feel like I'm losing. I don't have that much of this point sticking out anymore. So I almost need to take you off and take a little bit of this off, because that wire is not sticking out very far. So hold up. Hold up. We need that wire to get in there a little more. Yeah, look at that. Instantly I took that stuff off. And it still now sits in here the way it's supposed to. So, yeah. We need to make sure when we do this, we keep adding, we're not burying the wire all the time. Burying the wire is bad, because that's going to limit its ability to stay in here when I want to have it in there. Which means when I'm kind of, I guess, pushing this in, I'm pushing the whole thing over, which is what I need to be a little mindful when I kind of do this shoulder area and kind of need to merge this, because I can see that's being problems. All right, I think we got that. All right, you're in there. Where are we? We're over 50 minutes. Okay, we're getting back to, we are getting back to longer sessions again. I do realize that, but on one hand, it is nice just kind of showing highlights of what's going on. On the other, it's like I said, it's just the process. Just a chill place to be. And it's nothing really more than that. I will likely never be the fastest at doing this type of stuff. I will likely never keep this on camera all the time either. You know this by now. But it's just a chill. It's just fun seeing things, again, slowly take shape. And kind of watch it go from little stick figure thing to an actual finished character. I think we're going to be pretty close between this and this one might actually take slightly longer than Bang. I might be like an hour or slow on the modeling side slower. I'm still think this is probably about a 30-hour-ish modeling part. I think painting is going to be really interesting. I'm not sure how long painting is going to take, because that camo stuff is going to be a thing. Whoop. Doing the camo is definitely going to be a thing. So I think all the other ones I've done so far have been around that kind of 10 hours, like 10, 11 hours for painting. This one might be a little longer on that front. Actually, I feel like I can almost guarantee this one's going to be a little longer on the painting side, just because I think that camo is going to be a thing. And there are just a lot of details to kind of deal with on this model that are smaller than the others, so it's going to be a lot of kind of fine-tuning kind of things. But let's just go. Stop hitting the camera support when I do this. I really need to stop hitting the camera support here. Alright, I think I'm just going to add one or two more pieces, and I think we're going to call it for this video. Like I said, take a break, sleep on it, see where we are from there. Actually, tomorrow, first thing I'm going to do tomorrow is probably record the next session of the game. Like I said, I think it's either one or two more sessions, and that should be done. So next week it will be finished. I don't plan right now on doing the extra skirmishes. I don't plan on doing the extra whatever friend battles, friend story missions. I'm just kind of doing the story mode, and I think I'm good on the game being done at that point. It will have turned out to be like a 45-hour game, and I think I'm okay with that. It's just, like I said, strategy games just tend to be a lot of game by the time all is said and done. Okay, so with that, we have, you need a little up front and a little there. Get off my finger, get off my finger. smooth this out. And for what I was expecting to get done today, I'm actually kind of pleased with this. It is, generally speaking, where I wanted it to be. Have most of this blocking out is kind of in there. We're gonna have some touch-ups for sure, but most of it's in, and we're not looking terrible at this point. It's definitely not right. We're not there yet. We have some noodly arm stuff going on here and whatever, but we're not in a super bad place. Let's see, I'm gonna want a little bit of this kind of coming in down that way. Alright, so this side is kind of like the other. We need to push up the underarm just a little bit. We do have a shaky kind of arm going on, which I'm not as thrilled with, but that's where we are. We now have the second arm going, and we're getting there. I might need to shorten this part, lengthen the other. I don't know. I'll play with that. We will play with proportions next time, and hopefully, if we can kind of get this into a decent part, just quick enough, then we can start doing the detail part over here as well. And we'll see at that point if I have enough time left to do maybe just touch up both hands afterwards. I might just do a touch up both hands and harden on camera if I'm stalling for time to do the other stuff. Or I may just do those parts off and harden it off camera, then start the next. But we will see where next session winds up with first before we figure out what to do after that. But no, we're getting there. We now have a character, and yeah, we will take it from there. And until that point comes, enjoy.